Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Now, in the meantime, the 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, died this past week at the age of 100. The former American leader founded the Carter Center, which works on resolving conflicts and promoting democracy in more than 80 countries. In his later years, President Carter was hospitalized on several occasions, even defeating cancer in 2015. Arise international correspondent Faith Orr looks back at his life.
Jimmy Carter dedicated his life to the pursuit of peace. The Camp David Accords was one of his early achievements in 1978, a deal that established diplomatic relations between Israel and Egypt. It eventually led to a peace treaty and set Carter on his future path. He was born in 1924 in the small farming town of Plains in Georgia. He went on to join the Navy, becoming a submariner and rising to the rank of lieutenant. In 1946, he married Rosalind Smith, and the couple moved back to Georgia when Carter's father died. They took over the family business, Carter Farms, and quickly became leaders in the community. Carter was elected to the Georgia Senate, then as the state's governor, before winning the presidential election in 1976.
Our commitment to human rights must be absolute. Our laws, fair, our natural beauty, preserved. The powerful must not persecute the weak, and human dignity must be enhanced.
As president, Carter established the Departments of Energy and Education, but he faced a major crisis in 1979 when 52 United States diplomats and citizens were taken hostage at the US Embassy in Tehran. Carter ordered the military to conduct a rescue mission, Operation Eagle Claw.
We're using every available channel to protect the safety of the hostages and to secure their release.
The attempt failed. One Iranian civilian was killed and 8 American servicemen died when a helicopter crashed into a transport aircraft. The failure was cited as a major reason for the downfall of Carter's presidency and his landslide loss to Ronald Reagan in 1980. It would be away from the presidency that Carter really made his mark, establishing the Carter Center in 1982. He was active in international diplomacy, particularly in intervening on behalf of Americans detained abroad, in one case in North Korea. The centre works in countries around the world, including dozens on the African continent, promoting democracy and healthcare. Jimmy Carter personally took part in election observation in places like Egypt, Sudan and Nepal. He was in Nigeria working on a disease control programme in 1995 when he was instrumental in the initial release of Olusegun Obasanjo from detention. Obasanjo had been accused of plotting to topple General Sani Abacha in a coup. The Carter Center has been involved in major world events, including the vote that saw South Sudan established. For his efforts, Carter was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002.
We can choose to alleviate suffering. We can choose to work together for peace. We can make these changes. And we must.
And that was exactly what Jimmy Carter did, dedicating his remarkably long life to trying to make the world a better place.
A short while ago, we had one of our guests addressing the tension in relations between Nigeria and the Niger Republic, and how the Nigerian government is going the extra mile to avoid an escalation. We have been on this matter until a special friend of Nigeria and a former American President Jimmy Carter died at the age of 100. For another perspective on those two momentous developments, I'm now being joined by Professor Joshua Bolarinwa, Director of Research, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Professor Bolarinwa, Happy New Year, and great to have you here on the program with two issues.
Thank you,
Jimmy
sir.
Carter and also Nigeria-Niger relations.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Let's start with Jimmy Carter. His significance, his importance. He visited Nigeria 3 times, in office and after office, and is well known in diplomatic circles and also in global politics.
Yes, you're right, sir. Yeah, Jimmy Carter, even now on record, is the longest living American president. He died at the age of 100 years. And precisely 100 years, 2 months, and 28 days. He was a very great president who lived his life impacting on the lives of others, particularly helping the poor, helping the needy, and also promoting human rights and democracy. And he visited or traveled to over 80 countries in promoting democracy, in trying to help the needy, and in also helping other nations from the problems or issues of human rights violations and other things involved. He also promoted the eradication of infectious diseases in so many countries, which he did. He was actually the 39th president of America, and he had only 1 term between 1977 and 1981. Before that time, he was the 76th governor of the state of of Georgia. He was the 76th president of the state of Georgia in America. And before that time, he had served in the Senate of the Georgia state. He served in the Senate. So he has served so well his country, he has served so well his people, he has served so well humanity, and he has promoted a big glance of humanity and promoted eradication of poverty and eradication of human rights violations. And at the same time, even he has worked in the area of habitat. This Habitat, a non-profit-making organization involved in housing. He promoted a lot of activities for them in helping people, not only in America, but across the world. Apart from that, Jimmy Carter had earlier in his life served in the U.S. Navy. He actually attended the U.S. Naval College, and he served as a naval officer in the Marines, submarines. So, and beyond that, after that service in the Navy or in the military, he waited a bit between 1961 and 63 when he returned to farming, particularly peanut farming. That was a family business for him, which he expanded to a global level or a global stage. So he did all of this before he went back to politics between 1963, when he joined the Senate of the state of Georgia. And from there, later, he became the governor of the state of Georgia as the 76th governor, and later the American president, 39th president, between 1977 and 1981. He did a lot of things under his presidency. Of course, a lot of people did not score his presidency beyond average. In fact, it was actually scored below average. And people rated his post-presidency period better or far better than his presidency. But during his presidency, he was the one who introduced the national energy policy in the U.S. that transformed into the creation or the establishment of the Energy Department as it is called today. The same thing, he started or established the Department of Education in the U.S. to date. Apart from that, he also introduced what was called new technology in the U.S., which was also spread across the world. Beyond that, President Jimmy Carter brokered the second round talks of the strategic arms limitation talks. You know, the first one in the early 70s was brokered by Charles de Gaulle, but he brokered the second round of talks on these strategic arms limitations, this thing. Even at the invasion of Afghanistan by the then Soviet government, President Jimmy Carter escalated the Cold War issue by introducing what he called Carter Doctrine. And this Carter Doctrine was actually, it was a response to the invasion and the radicalization of the Soviet policy at that particular time, culminating into one of these invasions, particularly the Afghan invasion. So he escalated it and introduced Carter Doctrine, and he imposed restrictions and on the Soviets. And apart from that, even the Nicaraguan Revolution and the Moscow Olympics, Jimmy Carter led the rallying, the diplomatic rallying, and the boycott of that Olympic Games in Moscow, and at the same time also tried to bring back to normal the situation in Nicaragua. So he did a lot of things that he will be known for. And he also was one that brokered, he started and successfully completed the Camp David Accords. The Camp David Accord. So he did all of this.
The Nobel Peace Prize in 2002.
So he did all of that. Even the Panama Canal Treaties, he was one that brokered all of. So he did a lot of things.
Trump wants to reverse.
Yes, now. So he did a lot of things, and he has impacted not only governance, democracy, development, human rights, and so many other things, and the eradication of poverty, not only in the United States, but across the world, which he has done excellently well. And that's why he will be remembered for so many things, for so many successes, for so many inputs. And like I said earlier, although within America and beyond, his presidency was rated low, while his post-presidency was rated very high.
Okay, the second topic that we mentioned in the introduction, Nigeria-Niger relations and the friction that we seem to have developed in the last week or so. Nigeria is saying, well, we're not guilty of the various allegations. Nuhu Ribadu, NSA, had said so. Mohammed Idris, Minister of Information, has said so. Do you think that diplomacy will resolve whatever differences may exist between us and the Republic of Niger?
Yes. Nigeria and Niger have had diplomatic, political, economic, cultural relations right from 1960. And that relationship has been existing very well. Of course, there can be some skirmishes and some other issues along the line. But Nigeria and Niger, they have always maintained a very good diplomatic relations. But of recent times, particularly since 2023, after the coup in Niger of that July 26, 2023, it has brought a lot of cracks into the relations between Nigeria and Niger. Nigeria and Niger share a border which, Your Excellency, you have mentioned earlier before, share a border of more than 1,600 kilometers, about 994 to 999 miles. And this is very long. And the border covers 7 northern states in Nigeria. 7 northern states in Nigeria. By that, the implication of that is that Nigeria-Niger relations, particularly Nigeria-Niger border, is very strategic for economic reasons, for security reasons, for diplomatic reasons, for cultural reasons, and by extension for political and multilateral issue reasons. Because if Niger shares a very, very long border with Nigeria, then Nigeria and Niger must always be at the same page in order to ensure there is security of the border or borders or the long border. So Nigeria should ensure that that is happening. And in doing that, Nigeria also needs to let its neighbor, Niger, know that this is what is good for us and you, and this is what is good for you and us. So let us stay within that limit. But a lot of issues, as mentioned earlier, and as I've also mentioned now, a lot of issues are trying to create some skirmishes between the two countries. But I think the best way to do, in the past, particularly in 2024, the Nigerian government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Defense Ministry, the Minister of Defense, the Chief of Defense Staff, and even now the National Security Advisor, they have all made attempts at resolving this. So Nigeria needs to increase the rapprochement. Nigeria needs to increase diplomatic engagements. Nigeria needs to engage Niger more than before. I think they are misinformed. Even this allegation against Nigeria, the Nigerian government has also alleged the Ivorian government of sponsoring and training some rebels or some breakaways against Niger. They also did the same thing to Benin Republic. So Nigeria is not the only one accused by Niger. But Nigeria being the pivotal leader within ECOWAS, the West African region, and by extension Africa, Nigeria will definitely and encouraged to increase our rapprochement, increase the diplomatic engagements, and Nigeria should engage the Nigerian government, particularly at the summit level, more than before, so that there will be no misinformation. There will be no further cracks in the relationship or relations. And all of this will come to being resolved. Because I'm also aware that Nigeria and Niger even has an existing joint commission, which was established in 1971. That can also be resuscitated, because at a commission level, it should happen at the very summit level. There should be more engagement in order to let Niger understand that, first of all, the allegation is not only false, but is baseless. And secondly, that Niger itself should understand that we need ourselves, particularly for security reasons. We need ourselves, particularly for economic reasons. We also need ourselves for political reasons. And we also need ourselves, more importantly, as good neighbors. Of course, within Nigeria's foreign policy, there's an element of good neighborliness in our foreign policy.
Well, on that note, I would like to thank you very much, Professor Joshua Bolarinwa, for joining us on This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show.